Yes, we are back with HBCU. Yes, we are back with HBCU.
Says
I
one
don't
of
know
the
if it
screens
went
having a
through. Yes, we are back with
Are you guys
HBCU
there?
Talk with author Robert Carpenter, CEO Marcus Flanders of the BMF Media, and Alexandria Charles, talking on our struggles, our fights within our community. Brought to you by the HBCU National Boosters Club.
All right, we back.
Hello,
This is
guys.
Big Rob, and we got
Yes.
hey,
Brandon, and we have the lady, the queen, Miss B,
Oh, praise
Miss
God.
Charles,
Love,
and
love.
we're gonna. This is part two of relationships, and what we're gonna be talking about tonight is we're gonna be talking about. Last week we talked about why relationships in our community sever us so many times, and people go their separate ways. And
Mhm.
tonight we're going to talk about how we keep relationships and the things we need to do from a mental, spiritual, emotional, and various different ways that we should look at as key factors of keeping our relationships. And one of the things I wanted to talk about that we had talked about that we discussed was finance, and we can
Mhm.
start there. And
yeah.
a lot of
No romance, but the finance.
well, a lot of relationships are separate because of money,
True.
Yeah.
uh, the lack
Mhm.
of, or
Mhm.
too much of it.
Amen. Yes.
They,
Mhm.
that the couples are chasing after money too much, and I'm gonna just give you. I like to give experience when we have these conversations. One, I had a conversation with a young lady, and she said to me, she said that I'm not paying the mortgage or the rent, and so I said,
Oh.
and I'm not going 50-50 with no man. So I said, well, where are you gonna live? I said, we make $100,000, and I said, you make $100,000. I said, where y'all gonna live in New Jersey? Because the average rent in New Jersey for 2 to 3 people, if you're gonna live nice in a nice community, is $35,000 to $4,000 a month. And we know $100,000, $4,000 a month, you're gonna be struggling.
Definitely.
Amen.
Yeah, and so I said, I believe that a couple should put their money in the bank together in one solid bank, and the woman just pay the bills, or the one who can manage the money the best.
Yeah, the one who
And
manages.
so I think finance is really killing relationships because people live in this fantasy and don't live in reality.
That's true.
What do you think, Miss Charles?
I do believe in that because of the fact that when you become one, everything becomes one.
Mhm.
If there's mine and yours, then of course there's no community. We talked about that. You said something that was key. You said with money or without money, it can be a problem.
Right.
And why? Because I think I was having this conversation a few days back with Brandon, and we were talking about people with money, and I gave him an example of a friend that I know. They didn't have any money. They struggled and finally bought one McDonald's, and they end up owning 10 McDonald's.
Mhm.
But guess
Right.
what? By him owning 10 McDonald's, he's flying all over the place and being all that. He got a woman everywhere. He could afford a woman. He could afford a
Right.
couple of them. You know what I'm saying? So a
Yeah,
brother is, not a person with money can be dangerous, and the one
Right.
without money can be dangerous because money is, people have quoted that, which is incorrect. They say money is the root of all, is the root of evil. No, it's not. It says the love of it becomes the root of the evilness. You know what I'm saying? Money ain't the problem. There's a scripture in Ecclesiastic that says money answer all things.
Yes.
You know, I keep telling folks that, you know, we could make it basic, but if we don't have the right communication, that's something that you need to talk about before marriage. Who's paying the bill? Who's managing? You said something that was key but you said that, hey, find out who pays it better. If you're the one that better manage it, then you do it. It's not a man's thing and a woman's thing anymore that we've been duped to believe. Like it's the man that pays the mortgage. Maybe you make more than the man.
Have you ever been in a relationship where you don't even know what your mate make?
Oh yeah, plenty. Yeah. And then you know,
I have. That ain't no relationship now.
But you know the crazy part is that people think relationships are based on finance, and they're really not. It's a part of it. It's an instrument to move you from one place to another.
I agree.
Right.
But it's not. What you about to say, Brandon?
Remember, I was telling you about the discussion where the ladies were saying that if you want to marry a broke man, you marry a black man. And then in another conversation, they were saying that your mate needs to be making $75,000 or more to be with them. So that was coming from a woman's perspective. You know,
that her mate should make $75,000
or more.
Well,
they shouldn't even come to the table. Listen, they shouldn't. He was saying that they shouldn't even come to the table if they make less. Rob is like contemplating on that one. He can't even talk. Go ahead, finish up.
I think a lot of that comes from the lack of fathers. The lack of fathers, the lack of leadership in the household coming from a man, giving her understanding the foundation of what a man should look like.
And it's a spirit of poverty. It's a spirit of poverty. Because once you have that mentality of poverty, you always feel like somebody needs to have it so that I can live it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how people can live through other people's money. I just couldn't see myself like
comfortable.
Well, if Stedman, in the case of Stedman and Oprah, then I can see it. You know what I'm saying? I guess he still created his own space. You know what I mean? Like while he was on the side, Stedman came out of High Point, North Carolina. You know what I mean? You know, my father, my uncles and them knew Stedman. Stedman right out of High Point.
Yeah.
And so but he created his own space. He created his own dynamics where if she wasn't there, he still would be okay. But the thing is that I don't know how people live through somebody else's money and say, okay, like a woman, I don't know, like with all the independent women out here, I don't know how a woman could just say, I'm gonna sit at home and let him pay all the bills. I'm like, where's the spirit of wanting for yourself? Or the spirit
Some of it's been taught. Some women, they've been taught to listen, your husband's gonna take care of you. That generation from generation, they've been taught that the man leads and he's supposed to take care of you. You be a housewife. There's some women that have that mentality that they want to be a housewife and raise their children, and that's all that they can look for.
And let me come in there. You know, this is what we were taught. Remember, even in the Bible days, women did not. You remember that's why a lot of men it was okay for having multiple wives, because if my husband died and my brother, my brother-in-law has to take upon me as another wife now, because with the wife he has, because we didn't have a job. So we were brought up, and this is our make to be taken care of. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And being that process for them. But the problem is this, we're living in a different sanctuary. We're living in a different world now where both family has to work. Both adults in the family has to work. And if it is that they're working, it changes the dynamics of how we figure out, you know what I'm saying, best work for our family. And that's the bigger thing is communication. You know, because it might be better because I remember a friend of mine had to stay home, you know,
Mhm.
because it the money she was making, the babysitting that they were paying, she might as well stay home and take care of her own child. Because
Well,
all the
in
money
those,
she was making was going to the child, taking care of
well,
the child, you know?
in that case, I understand, and that's why it's so important that we identify who we choose to make us our mates. Like like my daughter, she married a gentleman, and we had a conversation. I remember this conversation, and I asked her. I said, "Is he? Can he keep up?" That was the question. And at that time, I didn't really know the gentleman, but but this guy didn't have. This is my son-in-law. He didn't have the education that my daughter had. My daughter, college graduate, master's degree, stuff like that. And but this guy was he he will bust his butt for his family. You know what I mean? And I sit back today, and I said, wow, he took the little bit he had and
Mm,
the education that he had, but he loved his family so hard, so much that he worked hard. And and the other night we was out eating dinner, and I sat there and I watched how they interact with each other. And her income maybe is way over, maybe 20, 30, $40,000 more than his.
mm,
But the way they work together with the credit cards, the car note, the mortgage, and insurance, it's like they're a team. You know what I mean?
mm,
Amen.
And the thing is that, and I watch my grandchildren. They don't. I don't. They're not over there talking about they hungry, or they're the most happiest kids in the world because it's two parents pulling together and not saying, "Well, you got to pay this because you the man." They just saying, "No, we're gonna do this together." And I applaud the young brother for his hard work and I was you asked your daughters that because you want them to be with somebody that can help and them grow financially, spiritually, because you don't want to be in debt and struggling with somebody. Because I've been in those relationships where you carrying that load and it becomes a headache.
oh, yeah, it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the thing is that you can't get to the spiritual and emotional part because you're struggling financially. And like, and you
Mm,
looking over on your right hand side and be like, oh, I gotta pay for this again. And and they like it's like having an empty cup beside you. You
yeah,
busting your butt and they talking about you carry it. And
yeah.
like, what woman love you to want to say to you, I want you to pay everything?
Mm,
Like, how could you
Well,
love somebody
well,
and want them?
let me interject a little bit with that.
Okay,
There,
okay,
we have men, we have women that has, you know, gotten to the point where they've been taking care of the household. So they have a man that comes on, and men, and correct me, you guys are men. I'm not, of course. That we've been taking care of the load. We've been, you know, we get pregnant. We're the one with the whole responsibility. The man is out. So then when you do have into a relationship with somebody, if you have been taking care of all this thing, it's like, you know, it's sad to hear you say that a woman says, well, she needs a man to pay the rent. Let me tell you, there's more things than the rent and the mortgage. There's the food, there's the this, there's the that, you know, a list of categories that needs to be put together, just like you said with your daughter, but it's two healthy people that makes a healthy relationship.
right. So I agree with you. So my thing
Hmm.
was, if I'm I'm gonna put myself in the place of a woman. Okay, I'm gonna be the devil advocate. You the man. You are out there busting your butt. You paying the mortgage, and I see the grind and the struggle because in the state of New Jersey it's very expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm making my money. I'm gonna look at you, knowing that you grinding, and not lift that weight to help you because I know you love me and you doing this because you
Amen.
love me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take on this. You the man. I'm gonna pay the bills. You got to pay the bills. So you're gonna take on that burden. No, because if you love me, you be like, baby, let me lift this weight off you because that's what love do.
That's exactly
Love says I don't want him struggling.
right.
I want him to work, but I don't want him struggling. Not when I can help. So I don't want nobody who looks at me, and even if I can pay all the bills, and not have the consideration and the care to say, you know what, I got you.
Right, right, right,
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Who wants that? I don't want that in my life.
right.
I don't want somebody who's sitting back, and talk to your girlfriend and say, oh, he pay all the bills. But
So
I'm
what
stressed
you got
because
to
I
say,
can't come to
Brandon?
you and have a
Yeah.
conversation.
So Rob, you said something earlier when we were having a conversation, and I think one of the things that's lacking in a lot of relationships, even when it comes to financial and it comes to all those things of who does what role, who's making the most money, I think that when people are present in their relationship
Mm-hmm.
and they recognize where the strengths are, because when you're courting somebody and you're getting to a point to where you're getting ready to get married,
Mm-hmm.
in that initial stage, finances should be talked about. It really should be dealt with. You know, if you know you're gonna marry somebody and you're getting involved in a relationship, before you start getting involved and having children, sometimes children is it happens. But at that same time, when you have a child, you got to be present in that moment and recognize we got to come together and do what it takes to make this relationship
Yeah.
work. It ain't based
Mm-hmm.
upon what somebody else is doing or what men need to be doing or what women need to be doing. Whoever's making the most, they need to come together and be present in that moment and say, what's going to be best for our relationship? What's going to grow our relationship financially? Because if we're not fit and we're not whole financially, it's going to affect us mentally. Like you just said earlier, it's going to affect us spiritually, emotionally, and it's going to cause people to want to cheat, want to do all those things. And that leads to some things. Brokenness in a relationship. Anything, if you're talking about somebody that's got emotional problems, those things need to be dealt with early on in the relationship. So those are some of the key factors when people get together. We're not present. And something that you said earlier, you said now that you thanked God, and you said one of the things that you learned today was you have to let some people go. But even in that, in relationships, we have to know what to deal with and be present in that moment to make that relationship be completely whole and what it can be. Finances is going to happen. Somebody can lose a job, you know,
Right.
somebody may not be making enough, but more than enough. But that's if there's love and unconditional love in a relationship,
Amen.
you should be able to get through anything. When people make their vows, they say,
And the reason,
I'm going to be with you through richer or poor, through
right,
sickness and health.
right. What I'm saying to you is that that goes out the window for most people. But let me just say this to you: it does,
Yeah,
because
true.
you have see. First of all, you have to be taught life skills to be able to think that way.
Right, true.
And a lot of in our community, there's not a lot of life skills being taught.
Mm-hmm.
Life skills are prevalent in our community, and those are one of the things that we lack. Some
Right.
people, not all, but I watched. The reason I've seen a successful marriage,
Right.
my buddy Fahim, my best friend, he's been married to his wife for about almost 30 years. And I look back at his wife, I should be jealous, not jealous, but I should be envy in a good way, not a negative way, in a good way, because he had a successful marriage. Because
Mom. Yeah.
he said to me, he said, we put everything in one place and we pull from it. He said, I make So Fahim was making, he was a correction officer. He was doing overtime, making about 120. His wife was making about 75. He said all that money go in the bank, and we talk about what we got to pay, and we build and have planning and stuff like that. Talk to some of these sisters now, and you be like, "Come on, we're gonna put it all in the bank." No, I'm not. I'm not getting ready to put all my money in the bank, right? So,
Right. And at the end of the day, that's a sister that's not really ready for a real relationship.
Right. So what? That's about 90% of them. That's about 90% of them.
Right.
That's about 90% of them. And then you turn around, right? And we're not talking about putting in the money in the bank with your boyfriend or a guy who's been your fiance for 5 years. You know what I mean? We're talking about in a marriage.
Right.
They don't want to put the money in the bank and say, hey, we're going to pull from it and we're going to have a plan. We're going to create infrastructure so we can see ourselves. So my buddy Fahim, he bought a house in Union. I remember when he bought the house. He called me up. He said, yo, come on my house. I went over the house. The house was $170. So the price went up. He sold the house for $300. I think he said $330. I can't remember the number. So he had like a balance of, he paid the house off and had a balance of like 100 and something thousand. So he took that 100 and something thousand and bought a $500,000 house, which he had a mortgage, with the same mortgage that he had on the $175,000 house. So then he took the house for $500,000, and when it went up to $750, right? Him and his wife, they had a plan. Right. I live in a $1.2 million house right now. So right,
that's a good model. That's a good model.
And I goes down to Monroe, New Jersey, and I'm looking at his house, right? And I'm saying, Fahim, how you do this? He said, because me and my wife, we do everything together.
Teamwork.
We put everything in the kitty. He said, when I go out on the weekends, I got a limit.
Right.
She said, well, you can spend $150 if you want to hang out with the guys. And she has a limit. And she said, and he said, if I need anything extra, I go get an extra hustle. But he said, we do everything together. He said, we won. And he had 3 kids, all went to college, all graduated. And all of daughter went to Georgetown, and they did that on a correction officer's salary and an insurance salary, which correctional officers don't make a lot of money unless they do a ton of overtime. And insurance, she worked for Prudential, and she's making about 75, 80. So the thing is, that was my best example of a relationship. So my thing was, how do a sister come to you and say, I want you to pay everything? I said, well, where are we going to go? What are we going to build? What are we going to create? Are we just going to, where are we going to live in the state of New Jersey for under $2,500?
Listen, I'm going to say, sisters and brothers, if you're thinking like that, y'all don't need to be with each other. You don't even need to be trying to have a relationship. You just stay by yourself if you need somebody. No, stay by yourself. Because that's a bunch of mess. It right. is. That's craziness. So not only women think like that, but men think like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, so finances are so important in the relationships.
Yes.
And that was one of the topics that, I wanted to jump on real fast. But the other part that I wanted to talk about was spirituality. Alex tapped on that earlier.
Yeah.
She started quoting scripture. She a pastor. She went through the Old Testament, then back to the New Testament, like that. And I heard somebody say that you have to be. I heard you say, Brandon, in our last conversation, that you have to be equally yoked.
Yeah.
So
there has to be.
You two guys are Christian. I'm Muslim, right?
Right.
If a sister met a good brother that was a Muslim, right, and he was great to her, Would you have a problem with her marrying him?
No, not at all. Mm-mm.
How about you, Alex?
I
Huh?
can't. We lost you
I
there.
can't hear you.
You know what? That depends.
On what?
You know why? Because of the fact that I know that in the Muslim faith, when you marry somebody that's not in the Muslim faith, the process is that the man can marry out of the faith and then convert the woman to the understanding of their religion. If you as
But
the
let me give you the full understanding of that.
okay,
But
please.
but in the Quran, Allah tells us not to burden the woman with that
Hmm.
process. If she choose not to convert, leave her
And you
be.
know what? You of a lot of men that I've heard that said that, a lot of them have said no, because he's the stronger spirit. He will convert her
Mhm.
eventually.
Mhm.
That's what I've
Well,
heard,
I
and
well
I
I
could be
one thing
totally wrong.
no one thing. I mean, you got brothers who try to um, persuade a sister to go over. If I choose to marry a sister, I'm not gonna I'm not God, so I'm not gonna try to convert you to anything. I'm gonna just tell you to be a good Christian. Like our man had a conversation. He said, "Stop believing that we the only ones that are going to make it to heaven." He
Right,
said Christians are going to be judged by their book, and Jews are going to be judged by their book.
right.
And he gave hadith and Quran. So Christians going to make it in heaven, and Jews going to make it in heaven. So make a long story short, my thing is we say equally yoked. What is equally yoked, and what do that mean?
Spiritual. I mean, and it doesn't have anything to do with religion, because if we say that we have the same God that abides within us, that's spiritually. I mean, when you have somebody that don't believe, period, or that there is no belief system, to me that's being unequally yoked. Somebody that doesn't have the same belief, the same values, uh, and you won't always find that, but it has to be some commonality. There has to be a chemistry and a vibe in that spiritual realm between those two. That ain't got nothing to do with nobody else. It's just between the two of them. And if sometimes when I say that people are not equally yoked, is if there is nothing that draws them together. And you can see people that's not, who shouldn't be together. And it's like they're
Mm-hmm.
constantly fighting and fussing and there is just a disconnect. That's being unequally yoked. Because you can see it. It's obvious in a lot of relationships when you see broken marriages and when you see men beating women and women abusing men and whatever it is, and that's being unequally yoked. And you can see it most of the time when you see somebody, you're like, that ain't gonna make it.
Can what I've noticed that go ahead, sister.
Spiritually, for me, as I've been to in other religions where other religions will say, well, I can't go to a church because my religion don't believe that I should go. I'm a as you've made it, I'm a pastor, I'm a minister of a church. I'm preaching somewhere. I want my husband to be there to support me. I want a praying man. I want a man that's going to pray for me, pray with me. I want him to be the first to tell us, hey, we're going through something, babes. Let's break out the Bible. Let's see what the Bible said. Let's pray about this because these are the guidance that I'm looking for in a woman. I don't want to have my understanding and my religion and he has his understanding and his religion. That's how I want to submit to you, because if you come to me and say, listen, God tell me to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to believe that you've been praying, you've been um, seeking God for us in our relationship, that I'm going to guide you, because there's a scripture that says, as I follow Christ, you follow me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can't follow you if you're not following, you know, the God that I serve or the God that of my understanding, because of the fact that the thing is this, I don't want on a Sunday, I go to one church and some people are both Christians. So let's talk about that. He goes to his church and you go to your church. I want I want the representation of me as a woman being covered even in church. I want my husband to come with me to church. So everybody could know I am married. I'm not a single woman. This is the representative of my covering. You know what I'm saying? I want my husband to bust out with the Bible study and say, Lord, I was reading this and I need this to be implemented in our household, in our lives, you know. So these are the things for me that I'm not not saying, even saying Christians, I wouldn't marry certain Christians. Because I tell people there's three type of relationship. There's some people that know God, there's some people that's in relationship with God, and there's some people with intimacy with God. You know, I'm looking for a man with intimacy with God.
Can I ask you a question? You
Sure.
know that there's a statement in the Bible and the Quran that says that humanity is like seed to a flower, and each seed grows differently.
Mm-hmm.
So these expectations sometimes that we put on people from a spiritual base,
Right.
they haven't grown where you at. They're good people. They're gracious people. They just haven't grown where you at.
And
So
I'm
you
willing
come
to
with
work with you, but not everybody is there to want to work with that.
But a person, but
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying to you is that you meet a person based on principles, you like them, you spend time with them, y'all have a great time together on this side, right? But on this side, he's a spiritual man. He believes in God, but he's not as as educated or as in clear and understanding that you have. So you want to throw all your water on him to rush him to where you at, but you don't want him to grow like a flower. And I think people do this a lot in relationships because I have to allow a person to grow. Now, it'd be different if I'm trying to wait for you to grow and you're not accepted, right? But I am open to say, well, he's not there yet. Because I look at humanity from a flower standpoint. You grow straight, that flower got a little bend in it, that flower got a little darkness in it, but we all are flowers. So I'm going to kill this relationship that has all this good to it because he hasn't or she hasn't risen to the level of my understanding.
Well, are you asking or are you making a statement?
I'm doing both.
Okay, so in your asking, I think that I like you. I would like to, like communication. I would like to give you my expectations. These are my expectations, as I just said. But if you're saying, well, that's not an expectation, that's not, you know, I can reach that, but not now. I'm willing to work with you because then if I've never put out my expectation and I never said these things to you, in 6 months down or 6 years or six whatever down the mile, what is that? Hello?
No, just go ahead. It's gonna
okay.
go by.
So basically, what I'm
It is time for Aisha. The next prayer.
you want to take the volume down or something?
54 minutes.
No. It's going on. I'm sorry.
So what happens is this: sometimes that our expectation, we've never put it out on the table. So then, when you're in this relationship, what you see is what you get. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying to you is, I hear what you're saying. Will I work with somebody that's willing? Yeah. If I gave you my expectation and you're saying, hey, I'm ready to work with you, vice versa. You know, I heard somebody said, he's not perfect, but he's just perfect for me. You know what I'm saying? There's some people that may not be perfect, like Brandon was talking about, but when they're perfect for each other, all of those things are just bridge underwater.
Because
you know what I'm saying?
We all practice our faith differently.
Right.
Our spirituality are practiced differently. And I watch relationships get destroyed because their level of faith is not on the same level as their mate. And their mate don't allow that flower to grow.
But there has to be an expectation. There has to be a wanting there. You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to be there, no matter if we could let it grow, it'll die. Because they don't want to grow in that way.
So you kill the relationship?
Yeah, if that's not what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking
about you married.
So,
well, if I'm married, No, no, no,
And
no.
this,
See,
and
now let's break it down. Because if I'm married, I got a scripture for you, boo. It says, if this man is willing to be with you, and you get, let's say you get saved in the marriage while you're in the marriage, now it's up to me to stay with you because you're willing to stay with me. It's up to me now to stay with you because it
what
never
scripture
said to
says
get up
that?
and leave.
What scripture?
Oh,
What
let me give it to you. Come on, come on, come on. I have my Bible with me, but I'm gonna tell you
I
right
know.
now.
Hey, hey,
It's
you
in
can't pull no.
Corinthians. Listen. It's in Corinthians. Let me tell you right now. Corinthians 14. So I'm gonna find the exact scripture for you. Yes,
Okay.
it does say that if I get saved or if I get quote unquote the spiritual perspective in a revelation and he's willing to stay with me and he's not where I'm supposed to be, I need to dumb down and work with him. I'm here with you. But I'm just talking about prior to marriage, you know what I'm saying? Getting to that point, you already have an expectation. The person has an expectation, and all of a sudden you want the person to change. That's not fair to
Well,
him,
can I say
or that's
something?
not fair to her.
What I'm saying to you is that when I brought the conversation, I said people break up because of spiritual reasons, right?
That's true. That is true.
Okay.
You're right, sir.
So
You're right,
in
sir.
the conversation, first of all, I won't date or be with a woman who don't talk my language in conversation because
Hmm.
conversation is spiritual. So
Yes, you're correct.
when we converse, the spirit of our souls and the vibrations of our energy connects.
That's
So
it.
we could never connect if we didn't have the same energy. But
Yes.
let me
Hmm.
tell you what life does do. Life pushes you on, and as you are moving, there's one who raises their level of understanding, and there's one who stays in a space, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
what I found people do is like they look down at them,
Right.
and I'm
And,
saying
So
that's still a seed of God,
right. And
and He's growing.
yes, yes, yes.
And so, because you go to church every Sunday and he chooses to only go once a year, doesn't make him you better or him
oh,
less.
oh, oh, I agree with you, my brother. I'm with that. When we're married, it's totally different. But when we're not married and you're trying to find that mate, that's all I was saying. But you correct.
You're never gonna get married if he doesn't match your spirituality.
Right.
No, go ahead.
I want
Am
to
I
Go
say
right?
ahead,
something.
Brandon. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Brandon.
Brandon.
We've been
I
talking
think this.
together, not letting
I
you
think
do it.
those. I think both of y'all are raising some great points, but I think
Hmm.
that we sometimes we get so caught up on the religion and not the spirituality of the union. Like Rob said something that God is the seed of that relationship. If God is blooming in that relationship, that is one seed that's planted. You're a seed by yourself, but when you become one union, that is another seed. So spiritually,
Hmm. Hmm.
there has to be some type of spiritual connect, that we're not judging one
Yes.
another based upon who's a Muslim or who's a Baptist or who's a
Right.
Catholic. Or if there's
Hmm.
spiritual union
Hmm.
there, those two have
Amen.
to grow spiritually, and that spirituality doesn't have anything to do with the religion of it.
Exactly.
Right.
If you're looking for true love and true union in that, sometimes we have to, and it's not abandon the what we believe in, but what we have to do is come together and agree. And if there is no agreement, that's what's when I say that equally yoked, if there's no agreement in the spirit, and I'm talking about in the spirit realm, not dealing
Hmm.
with any religion. So many times we get caught up on the religiosity of it. And that's not what God is about. God is not a religion. God is a spirit that abides in us. So if we're not
Well,
in that
let
union,
me.
because you
Right.
said planting a seed and you
Right.
grow differently. Yeah. But at some point in time, there has to be that faith and that spirituality is based upon communication between the two of them. And if there's a breakdown
And
in
I said,
communication,
I totally agree with you,
yeah,
and that's why in Islam we don't consider ourselves a religion. We consider ourselves a way of life.
mhm,
But to get away from to have a debate on religion and
right,
to stay on the spirituality of relationship.
right, exactly.
Like when I if I choose to go out with a woman, it's the vibration that she gives off.
That's it.
And if the vibration is
The chemistry.
then you know what I mean, I already know that I'm not going to be around. But if the vibration is good and the energy is strong, then it's captivating. You want to be there. You want to laugh with her. You
Mhm.
know, um, it's like a sister. She brings like she done went through something in this relationship, so she bring a whole garbage bag of garbage to this new relationship,
Yeah, right,
and you be like, yo, somebody, and they bring, and you can feel when they got a bunch of garbage because they say things that you be like, this don't come from a good spirit.
right. It breaks your
And you
spirit.
already know, you at the table eating with them, and you saying to yourself, oh, this ain't going nowhere. Let me just enjoy this meal and
Mm,
spend this $250 and keep it moving.
right.
Right. And because men do it too, men bring garbage to a relationship too. Oh, she cheated on me.
Yeah.
She did, you know. I had a boy. I work out in the gym, and you know, I hear him talk about his relationship. I know he's gonna bring that garbage, and women bring it, and men bring it.
Right. A
But
broken
if
spirit.
when you meet a sister or you meet a brother, and it's good, oh, that vibration is
Yeah,
amazing.
it is.
Like
Yeah.
it just bounces off you. And the crazy part, it happens. It rarely happens. And when you get older, it only happens once in a blue. It
Right.
doesn't happen like what I mean. It doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
And then sometimes, if you're not ready for it,
Mm.
then you can destroy it.
You can destroy it. It's broken spirits coming together. When we say hurt people, those are broken spirits
Mhm.
coming together, hurting each other. I mean, if you're broken spiritually,
Right.
if somebody's constantly putting you down, that's breaking you in your spirit, man. So how can you be as
Right.
strong spiritually for somebody else? Because we all spirits when we look at it. We're all spirits in a
Right.
human experience.
Right.
So when we're not aligned together, and there's there's no alignment spiritually, that's unequally yoked. That's when you don't feel that vibration, when you don't feel that chemistry. That's what, to me, that's what unequally yoked means. When you're not coming together and letting God be that seed that keeps you together, because that's where it starts. That's where that vibration starts. It means that our spirits are connecting. And if we're
Let me let
spirits,
me
that means that we're connected to God. That's
let me ask Alex this question.
Hmm.
Um, I had on my mind. My mother always used to say to me, well, to my sisters, and they probably didn't
Hmm.
remember it because none of them married. Well, one of them are. Um, she said, you have to reassure a man sometimes through a touch or just a rub on the shoulder or just a rub on the head. You don't always necessarily have to be intimate with a man.
Mhm.
You have to reassure him in your touches because men are physical. Why so many women don't understand that? Like you can be with a woman and you can be like, and they say, yo, I love being with you. They can say, yo, I love being with you. But you reach out and grab their hand and they be like, I don't like, I ain't into,
So
or
are we
white.
on that topic of spirituality, or are we? I mean, are we on that topic of emotional or physical? Because that's a question that covers emotional and physical at the same time.
Yeah, it
Well,
does.
we touched the physical standpoint the other night, but it's an emotional side. Like I have experienced it, and I have talked to other men who say, "Yo, you be out with them, and they say they interested, and they keep going out with you, but they be on the other side of the room." Is that's something that need to be taught by another woman to a woman, or what is it? I mean, because
I
it
I
bothered
don't I would say to you that it depends on the person, because of the fact that, like I said, knowing your love language. Some people's love language is touch. You know what I'm saying? Like you're saying, not every man that I know like to be touched. They're
Right.
more words of affirmation. They want to hear you're saying you're appreciative. They want to hear that you adore them in their atmosphere, what they bring to the table. And yes, there are some times that men like to be. I'm one of those people. I am more of, like I said, a more of an intellect. So I'm not a touchy feely type of person. Now that doesn't mean that I don't love you, I don't care for you, and all of that stuff. But like you say, but when you're in a
I
relationship,
couldn't be with you. I couldn't be with you because I'm gonna touch you. No disrespect. And you're a beautiful.
no,
woman.
no, and I hear you, and I hear
And I
you,
could
and
not be. Yo, you couldn't even be on my list because I love to touch and I love to feel. I love to cuddle. I love to hold, and that is important to me because this what you're asking. This what you're asking. You're asking me to bust my butt to help pay them bills and hold on and be a man in that household, right? Go out here and deal with this racist America, right? On the job and off the job, on the highway when I'm coming down the highway, and then when I get home, you're not affectionate. You're not touching.
That's not. Excuse me. That's not what I said to you.
Yes, you did.
Like
you said that.
no. I said I am not a touchy type of feeling, but that's my love language is words of affirmation. If I get with somebody, wait, let me finish now. If I get with somebody, their love language, I need to find out what their love language, and if I choose to stay with them, I need to communicate with them on their level of love language. This is what I'm saying to you. This is where the emotion and the physical comes in. Listen to what I'm saying to you. If your love language is touch and feel, if I want to be with Rob, that will make me, that's how I present love to him. I don't do that golden, perspective that said, do unto others like you like others to do unto you. No, I don't do that. I do to others what they want me to do then to them, not what I want. What I want is, if Rob wants to really communicate with Alexandra, write Alexandra a note. Tell Alexandra with his mouth how great he is, and let Alexandra know that if this is his expression of love, then I would have to do it for him. So I'm not trying to tell you not to change or to change. I'm saying to you, this is how I communicate better, and now you're telling me this is how you communicate better. So now we will work it together. So I'm not telling you, that's what I'm saying to you. Listen to what I'm saying. Emotionally, if that's your love language, I hear you. And I'm going to meet that need for you, but this is the need for me.
Right. So could you understand the need that she would have? So she's saying that she would cater to your need because she knows that that's what you need. You need to be touchy-feely. But at the same time, are you going to leave her those little notes that she likes? Are you going to be?
That's a part of listening.
Right.
What I'm saying to you is that I don't go into any relationship saying I'm not anything. I go into a relationship moving towards what makes her comfortable, right? And hopefully, in our conversation and our dialogue, she moves toward what was comfortable for me. So the thing is that if the vibration is there, right?
She'll know.
Like I never say I'm not the person who say I'm not touchy feeling. I'm not this, I'm not that. No, I'm everything to the right person. You know what I'm saying? I'm everything.
I hear you.
But that's you.
But that's you.
So,
that's you.
And that, can I say something? And that's what I'm saying to you is that those are relationship problems because women come in and say, oh, I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't do this. Even in the bedroom, let's talk about sexuality. Even in the bedroom, women talk about I don't do this and I don't do that. I'm like, I do everything if that's going to make you happy.
Right. Right.
I don't walk in here with the I will do's. I go with the I will do if I'm happy.
Well,
true.
Well, no, but it's not true. It's not true. This is I love this because it's not true. Because this is your truth. This is your truth. No, I'm
a lot of times black women are by themselves because
no, that is not true. What I'm saying,
with what I will and will not do. And
No,
I come in with I'm going to do whatever because I want to be
But you
happy.
can't do whatever. Listen, you can't do whatever for everybody. That's what I'm saying. Okay, if you are in the relationship already, then
We're
that's
not talking
different.
about
You need to make.
everybody. We talking about people that we are engaging into a serious
Okay.
relationship with.
Okay, but yes, this is what I want. You want the relationship to work. I want the relationship to work. We meet each other in that middle ground. I hear you. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're talking about. The compromising of the middle ground of
Right.
what's going to comfortable for me and what's going to be comfortable for you.
Right. And it's tapping it's tapping into what is the true intimacy of that relationship. Because
I
Alex
understand,
was talking about this
and
earlier.
that's why men get bored because men are saying this, and I heard it a million times listen, I own 3 barbershops. I heard a million of men come to the barbershop and talk about how they're not satisfied in the relationship. They're not satisfied sexually. They're not satisfied mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because the woman is talking about what she won't do. And when you tap into a marriage and a relationship, it's not about what I won't do. It's about how many times you want it and where at and how, and long as it don't affect my morality. You know what I'm saying? So my question is, why would I come into a relationship, right? And I'm gonna get in debt, right?
That's lack of true intimacy.
Right. And she like her toes suck, right? But I'm not a toe person, right? I'm gonna close my eyes and suck them toes and make sure she's happy. You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
The heat is on now. The heat is on. The heat is on.
I'm gonna look up at her and be like, "Boo, you good?" But I'm not gonna walk around here and talk about I don't do that, but I'm married.
Yo, listen, that is true intimacy.
And I hear you. I hear you.
And you're taking care of that person.
Amen.
You're taking care of that person.
No, there is a an agreement to everything that you do. You know, in a relationship. No. You have no. Let me tell you. I'm just saying that for example, I don't like a third person in my marriage. Some people might want a third person in their marriage.
That goes against your morality.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. But some people feel like that's not against their morality. You're saying that. But I'm saying that people will say these things where they're not comfortable with certain things. You know what I'm saying?
In a marriage, it's between the man and the wife. Every man knows that he may try you and be like, "Let me see if my wife gonna give me a threesome." You know what I'm saying? But he knows if you say no, they comfortable with it. But what I'm talking about, the other stuff, you know, I don't want to do it in the park. They watch it. Stuff like that. I mean, like all of the stuff that you want to be creative in the bedroom, and you like, yo,
that's different.
I'm stuck with this for 20 more years. No, I come in. Whatever gonna make you happy, sister, I'm gonna make you happy.
Amen.
And we're gonna have a great time and we're gonna enjoy each other. But like I watched it, I heard brothers say brothers are cheating because I don't do that. Oh, he wanted to pour syrup on me. He ain't pouring no syrup on me. I don't want to do that. I'm talking about this. I hear some of the sisters say something. I'd be like, serious?
Now that's that's simple little thing. That's different. But I'm talking about the craziness. Yes, I'm talking about the craziness of stuff. Some of y'all guys have a lot of bigger imagination that it's like, yo, Brandon, you ain't saying much. Come on now, speak to me.
Well, listen, let me just say this though. A young lady by the name of Latrice Deanne said, you have to find someone to match your freak.
Exactly. I love that. That right there, Latrice, you're the best. I love that.
That's why I said me and you couldn't be together.
Listen, but you're right about that. And let me tell you,
you could not be together because the minute you say no, I'm out.
let me say this, because what Latrice was saying was,
Prior to all of this being married.
we were talking about this earlier about intimacy. Because when you can really intimacy and you understand that person, that means that that freak is matching. That means that whatever that person wants to do, that you can see that, and you willing to cater to that need. That's the true intimacy of that relationship, and that's what keeps it together. When you can say, "Yo, I know you're a freak, but I can handle your freak."
Amen. Amen. I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. You already come to that understanding prior to even marriage.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
Because you know that person. You've already had those conversations.
Because listen, if all of a sudden this person is, but you know what? One of the things I've learned in relationships do evolve.
That's true.
Because there may be some things that a person may have never ever desired or even thought about at the beginning of their relationship when they got together, and they've evolved over to seeing things. Sometimes it's a hard thing for a mate to evolve to that level with them. But if you already know that that person is, I don't think that's anything to say, okay, I can't do. But if it's something that just comes up out of the clear blue and it just pops up, that's something that needs to be talked about, because to keep that relationship fresh, you might need to visit some of those ideas and be open, because if this is the person that you said you love, you want to be able to evolve with that person and grow with that person, because that's a part of the
Amen. Amen.
Okay,
Amen.
all right. So we're gonna get it. Kids out here watching, and so anyway, I want to say this
emotionally. I want to try the emotional process. How the brothers and sisters are crazy, and then they get crazier, and you expect them to change when you're married to them. It's too late now. There's some signs that shows you that some people suffers, bipolar. There's some signs that shows you people suffer depression. There's some signs that, that comes about that tells you people, if a man loses his job, that's not the time for you to be putting him worse, killing his manhood because he lost his job. And you as the woman, like, nigga, do this. And no. We need to kind of like understand how to keep each other emotionally healthy. The words that come out of our mouth and how we speak to each other's emotion to allow them to understand that not only that I support you financially, I support you physically, I support you, sexually, but I support you mentally. I support you emotionally. Sometimes emotional hold up, knowing that somebody understand that after I've had a baby, I'm a little emotionally crazy. You're not going to be demanding and being so nasty to me because I'm, my hormones are up. You know what I'm saying? If a man's going through some things, do you want to create that intimacy where he can come to you and don't want to come? I don't want him to go to his best friend. I want to be your best friend. I want something that happens to me. I want to be the first person I'm thinking about is calling my husband, not calling my girlfriends, not calling my mama, not calling my sister. Is that mate that emotionally support, because he's not going to bring me down because I'm crying over something that sounds stupid to everybody else. But my baby he gonna understand my craziness right about now. He gonna understand why I'm crying about this. I'm just saying, emotional support comes in big. Sure.
You can give. I think we all give emotional support, right?
Right.
But then sometimes we also have to understand that how I want to say it, because I don't want to be disrespectful. You have to grasp that some of the stuff that we get caught up on, we keep it in bondage. We hold it. Right? We don't know how to release it and let it go.
I'm right about that.
And sometimes you keep giving emotional support to something that be like, yo, let that go.
Okay, I do agree with that.
So sometimes women come in and they talk about their jobs and the girlfriend at their job and she this and she that. and right, and you want to sit there and be like, you know what, yeah, babe, how you gonna deal with it, da, 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 da. And then the next day they talk about the next girl, da, 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 right? And then men, we try to leave that job on the porch. When we walk in the house, we be like, we don't want to talk about the job. We
Rob,
really want to talk about what we're doing. But some of our women walk in and it's like, I hate Melinda at my job. They don't like nobody at the job.
well, you can tell
How
that's your wife. She crazy.
how you support that emotionally?
Go ahead. I'm gonna say something, but go ahead, Brandon.
Listen. When you have that type of crazy, you call that stuff out for real. I think sometimes why do we skate around stuff, and why do we walk around on eggshells? If this is somebody that we know and we say we love, yo, you crazy. Stop talking about that. Is that helping you? If you're gonna have a problem with her, go and talk to Melinda. Go and talk to Sally, because they're getting on your nerves, and you bringing that mess home to me.
Watch it now. Good answer.
Women different.
Sometimes you have to tell some people you need counseling, baby.
For real, you have to
But
get.
then, you know what they say to you? Oh, you don't support me. Well, I am supporting you.
I am support exactly. I'm telling you to let it go.
You're not gonna get nothing. I realize in relationships, and I want to say what Latrice said. Latrice, she tuned in again. She said that you really have to love someone. Okay, when you really love someone, you're willing to do things you may not normally do as well. And I agree with that. Because I don't, yeah. Why are you throwing your hands up? You didn't say it.
I agree. Look. When a woman says it, we all agree. We all agree.
That was her quote. She said it like that was her quote. Reverend Do Right. She said something like she made the quote. No, that was
it's a woman thing. Soon as she said it, I'm like, whoop, that's what a woman would say. That's what we do. Yeah. We become chameleons.
In her life, she might not even live that life. She might be.
You know what? Listen. We become a chameleon when we are men, women. When we want something, when we want relationship, we need to become a chameleon to one another. So if I want something from you, and that's in business, relationship, love relationship, any relationship, there has to be a level of compromise. There has to be a level of, I'm going to do it your way today. You could do it my way tomorrow. Period.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna. This is what we're gonna do. Listen, we have this last topic that I want to talk about, and it's the mentality of a relationship, the mental health of a relationship, all those things. So we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about that, and then we're gonna talk about that for 15 minutes, and we're gonna close out.
Okay.
But, this is a great conversation. Guys, I'm Robert Carpenter, CEO of Civic Group and COO of the Wolf Designers. If you have a child, nephew, niece, or just a child you love, go to BigRobChildrenBooks.com. Buy one of our books, t-shirts, hoodies, and support an underserved child. When you buy something, proceeds go to helping an underserved child. So click on the link and support a child.
Me like flypaper, neighbor. Slow down, love, please chill, drop the paper. Remember them niggas from the hill up in Brownsville that you rode dice?
Hello guys, I'm Arthur Robert Carpenter. I'd like to let you know that the Robert Hayes Foundation will be selling my books and apparel to raise funds to help underserved children here in America and across the world. So I'm asking you all to go to the rafoundation.care and support the child. The great thing about it is when you make a purchase, you're helping an underserved child.
Damn, niggas wanna stick me for my paper. Damn, niggas wanna stick me for my paper. Damn, niggas wanna...
Hello, my name is Robert Carpenter. I'm CEO of Civic Group and COO of the Wolf Design. In my free time, I become an author and a co-author of several children's books. And as I enjoy the journey, I become compelled to help communities of underserved children.
So my team and I partnered with Amazon to publish our Big Rob Children book series. And we are asking you guys to go to Amazon.com to help us service underserved children. Every time you purchase a book, it helps us to service a channel.
Powder so they can devour the criminals. Trying to drop my decimals. Damn. Niggas wanna stick me for my cream, and it ain't a dream. Things ain't always what it seems.
All right, so we back. Did my girl left me? Oh no, I'm sorry. Um, let's talk about mental health and mental welfare and and the mental connection in relationships. And I'm gonna let you start this Alex, because this is your field. This is your expertise on um, mental health. A lot of black men struggle from stress, and they don't talk about it. I'm one. I struggle with stress. I struggle with dealing. I think after my son got killed, I deal with a lot of stress. Uh, um, to some days, I just felt like just offing myself, and a lot of people didn't know what I was going through. I just talked to Brandon about it, and it was a lot of pain, and even uh, my wife didn't even understand how to deal with me. Like she kept dealing with me as the same old person, but I became a new person, and I wasn't. I was. I didn't know how to deal with it because I grew up in a community where when a God do something to you, you're supposed to do something to them, or you're supposed to take their life. So it's supposed to be a life for a life. So growing up on High Street in Newark and in the community, that's what we was taught. You never let a man get away for doing anything with you, and it stays with you forever. So when I lost my son, I didn't know how to deal with it. And me being a Muslim, my imam used to tell me, Rob, you can't take a life. He said, if you take a life, there's no heaven for you. And I used to have to deal with that. And my wife didn't know how to communicate with me. She didn't know how to embrace me, hold. She didn't know I was in pain. Like even today, as I have my days where I just break down because thinking about my son, and I ain't. So it was hard for me to. So I had went online and found a psychiatrist, and I started talking to her. It was like it's a $20 a week psychiatrist. I could just talk to her certain many times a day or anytime I wanted to talk to her. She had certain hours I could talk to her, but I had to pay it. It was $80 a month, which was very cheap for a psychiatrist. And I think you know about what I'm talking about. And I didn't know how to reveal to anyone the pain that I was going through for the loss of my son. And I even it pained me. I had so much pain that I saw me slipping away from my daughter. Like like I was a type of father. I used to love my children, and I loved my children, and I saw me getting away. And then when I left the house, I moved into by myself, and I put all these pictures on the wall of my children. Like if you walk in my house now, I got these 6 foot tall, these 5 feet tall pictures of my children all over the wall. And one day I just woke up and I was talking to, I would talk to the psychiatrist, and she was like, you trying to live through them. I was just dealing with it. I would walk around the house, I would look at the pictures, and then I went online and I got a book called Emotions, How to Deal with My Emotions and my Stress. And I was reading it, and he was like, and when I was at work, I used to be upset all the time. And then I started hating white people. It was like, and I didn't know how to talk about it. And then when I did get myself together, like even in relationships, I didn't know how to deal with people. I was like, it was only there and then my ex will always say you're a narcissist, and I used to be like, I used to back of my head, I used to say, you'll say anything to bring pain to me. It was never about understanding my pain. You know what I'm saying? It was always a selfishness about it. You know what I'm saying? So I started, as I went through my experience of dealing with, struggling with the loss of my child, then going through a separation, then going my not being around my daughter every day. I didn't have a person to talk to, so I used to talk to Brandon sometimes. I think, and I wouldn't share a lot of things that I shared with Brandon. And so when we was talking about mental and mentality and the mental health, I left it for last because it was so prevalent to my life. How I had to deal with so many things. And my son died in 2015. He got murdered in 2015. And I would take the pictures of each of the guys who murdered my daughter, who murdered my son and me. And I would go to each of their house every day. And one morning I was their mothers was walking out the house. I had, when you say mental illness, I was fucked up. And one morning the mother was walking out the house, and I said, I'm gonna murder the mother. And the mother was walking to her car, and I was walking across the street to blow his mother's head off. And a friend of mine, I don't want to say his name, he walked in front of me. And he said, yo, Rob, don't do that. He got in front of me and just gave me, and just like, yo, bro, don't do that. And I said, yo, I don't want to say his name. I said, what are you doing? What are you talking about? He said, brother, I've been watching you. You've been coming around here every day. He had a automobile shop right next door to the house. And he said, brother, I've been watching you. And he said, I knew that was your son that got killed. And he said, that lady don't have nothing. And I had the gun in my hand, like in the bag. And he said, that lady doesn't have nothing to do with this boy killing your son. So I left and I went to the masjid. And this is why mental illness can direct you into a area where there's no return. You know what I mean? And I went to the masjid and I was sitting on the masala, and the imam sat down beside me and broke down why I can't take nobody's life. And he explained it to me in detail through the Quran and the Surah. And he said, you got to learn how to start to forgive. And you got to forgive the people who took your son's life. And the crazy part was there were so many people talking to me, my buddies and friends. They would come around me like, Sleep, let's go put the work in. And I used to look at them and I'd be like, no, I'm not going to destroy your family. You know what I mean? And I was going through like just even now, and I think about it, I was going through hell within myself. For 5 years, I was like just contemplating, like either taking somebody of their family life or taking my life, because I was in so much pain that I didn't want to be here no more. I was like, but I knew that if I took my life, there was no forgiveness, and if I took their life, there was no forgiveness. And my oldest son said to me one time, I remember, he said, Dad, I know you're gonna kill these boys. And I looked over at him. I said, well, who's gonna take care of your mother, your sister, and you and your little sister? Because I said, once you start killing, their family got killers too. So now I gotta watch the mother, my sister. So I watched so many deaths in the city of Newark. And I've been blessed to have God in my life and to have people, friends like Brandon and other friends who had real conversations with me and would let me just voice my thoughts. But I always used to say, how about that brother who don't have that? Like, where do he go, and how do he get it off? Not only in situations like that, but like when he goes through family deaths, like a father died, but he's married, and he got to go to this job where he's grinding every day, or if his wife is sick, like where do he go to deal with all this craziness? And you had said something before, Alex. You was like, a lot of Afro Americans don't like to go see psychiatrists because we think it's crazy. Like, I don't need no psychiatrist. And until I sat down with one and spoke to her and went through the process of dealing with it, and I didn't do it long, and I still think I should go. It was like I started realizing that I heard Will Smith say it. He said, "Man, it's okay to see a psychiatrist." I'm starting to see NFL players say it. I heard LeBron even talked about how he dealt with his mental health. He started an app called Calm. And I'm starting to see these guys, and I'm saying to myself, well, these guys got all this money, but they're reaching out to specialists to deal with their pain. Mm-hmm. And for me to share my story, to go back to relationships. Sometimes you need an individual who can be the mediator of those dead spirits that's between you and your wife. That y'all can go sit down and have conversations and have dialogue and get because I always wish that before I separated from mine, that I wish me and Hubbard had took the time out to went and got a psychiatrist, because when we used to sit down and have conversations, we used to just like yell. It was never a calm moment, because when I used to tell her the things that I felt, she didn't want to hear it. So she would start to yell. And then when she said things, I would start to yell. And it never got resolved. Even up to today, the problems that we had when it came to, because me and my wife, she had 2 kids. I had a son. And we had a daughter together. So we had 4 children in the household. And we never talked about the struggles of bringing a family together, because that's a major struggle. That's a major mental struggle when 2 families come under the same umbrella with different ideologies, different views, and then the 2 people who's supposed to run the house are not cohesive or not together. You know what I mean? And not on the same page. So I said a lot, but based on that, I get it, and I want you to talk to that about mental health and why we should, as couples and relationships, why we should go out and see psychiatrists.
I don't know. But did you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. So if you're asking me, I would say that as a counselor myself, I have resolved problems. I have resolved a lot of different things with talking. And sometimes an outside, like you say, there is a like 8% to 10% of people stay in marriages when they lose a child. And that's hard. You know what I'm saying? Because and first of all, I want to give you my condolence and say, I'm sorry to hear that. Because when you lose a child, like a parent, always mindset is my child's going to bury me. And when you come to the point when you're burying a child, I would never want that to be even my worst enemy to experience that, let alone somebody that I know. So I understand what you're saying regarding your wife and not being able to communicate, because of the fact that is that intimacy you see. Mm-hmm. That is that togetherness that comes when when I'm hurting. That's that emotional support that I want to be able to give to this person that I'm with. that I would like, as much as I'm talking about my mate, but how about the sister and the brother that lost a sibling? You know what I'm saying? How about when you're saying that, hey, your strength to back to living is you still got to live because you do have other children. You didn't have that one child. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I believe that I agree with you, Rob, that, seeking outside help does not make you, a weaker vessel. It makes you a wise vessel.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, and I would love our other counterparts of people of different, the non-brown and black people, they believe in counseling to the point where little Johnny looks a little funny and acting off at school. Guess what they're going to say? He needs counseling. And he's only
Right.
5 years old. Where with us, we make counseling a diminished type of perspective. That means I'm not man enough or I'm not woman enough. But if, like you say, if you had took the time out and the both of you agreed to seek, because sometimes the reason we act the way we act is because we don't have no other perspective to understand what other relationship. Half of us was raised where we didn't have mommy and daddy in the room, and if we did, they were bickering and fighting, so we don't even have an experience of another relationship to understand that what we have is off. So you've never had, I'm sure, not people in your family, you had a lineage of people in your family that had passed away, that they buried their child, so that's something new.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was something new to your family, that's why you should have seek help right when it happened, because this is something that has devastated a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Even in your understanding, for just to understand each other. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a hard time. Like, emotional support and mental support is such an important, it's just as important as money, it's just as important as the sexuality, it's just as important
Mm-hmm.
as physical. Because if I have to love you or you love me, if I have fall into a car accident and guess what? I can't perform. Are you still gonna love me the way you said you love me? If I'm bound to a wheelchair, are you going to push me around? You know what I'm saying? This is a mental thing that happens because I didn't sign up for this. I have a girlfriend that married a man. She was 50 something and he was 40 something. Guess what? He has a stroke and now he's paralyzed from on the right hand side. He can't work. He can't do
Mm-hmm.
half of this stuff. Do you leave him now because he's not the physical man that you marry? You know what I'm saying? These are
Right.
the things that mentally that we need to,
Mm-hmm.
and then they seek counseling. So I hear what you're saying, and please, I would never, ever, ever, ever think that in a relationship, as a counselor myself, to have that desire, because when something in that magnitude is taken from you,
Mm-hmm.
that I understand that there's a need for that hug. There's a need for that love. And yes, Rob, if I was your wife, I would have given you that hug because I would have known that's what makes you happy. Because prior to that, you like, I couldn't be with you. You don't do the touch, but I would do the touch for
Look at her.
you.
She just like a woman, boy. She just do.
No, but I would, you know what I'm saying? I would do the things that make,
I understand.
like
I
you said, we
understand.
do the things that make the relationship work. Because sometimes, too, the most intimate conversation doesn't happen between a table. The most intimate conversation between that early morning that we're just laying in the bed together and I just want to share my heart. That is the most, pillow talk is the most powerful conversation that a relationship could endure more than any other time.
Pillow talk. Yeah.
Right. So listen, I want to, and you want to say something, Brandon?
No, I mean, I just thought that was mental health is a true thing. It's a real thing,
So
and I think,
listen. Okay. What I want to do is, go ahead, Brandon.
no, I was just agreeing. I think that it's okay for us as a people to seek mental health, especially during traumatic experiences, because it does affect our relationships. And I think that it will get it back on track if we seek and be able to talk it out, because sometimes we're not able to talk it out with our spouses, and sometimes you need to talk out with other people. and there's
Well,
nothing wrong with it.
Well, what I want us to do is, when we come back on next Tuesday, I want each
Mhm.
one of us to get somebody who's been through a divorce,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I want them to come on our show, and I want to talk about relationships after the marriage is over.
Mhm.
So, I want each one of us to bring a friend in at 7:30 who's been divorced, and we want to talk about mental. I want to move on into our third, because this is a 4-part series. I want the third part series, and I'm jumping, and I want to talk about um, marriage, life after marriage, and what it
Life
looks
after
like and what it
divorce.
smells.
Like that.
Life after divorce, yeah.
Mhm.
And we can tap onto the 4 principles of a relationship: the mental, the spiritual, the financial, and all those
Mhm.
things. So,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about that.
And I
But
guess you're going to
again,
be the guest speaker because
okay,
you've been there. You have to experience
yeah.
financially, emotionally, mentally, and all of that after divorce.
But I want to bring some people who we don't know. You know what I
Amen.
mean? Yeah, like that. And and even if you guys can, we're gonna find 2 or 3, and we're gonna come. If you find 5, let's bring them on and let's have a conversation about that, because in our community we're quick to leave and we don't spend the energy to stay.
Yes.
And I think the
Mhm.
strength in the
Mhm.
relationship is that the person who stays and fight through and can see the other side of the rainbow.
Right. Right.
Again, this is HBCU Talk. We're here with CEO Brandon from BMF Media and my girl Miss Charles. We're tuning out. Come and check us next week, 7:30, same time, same channel. Peace.